be said, right? Like, it must be said, right? Because I hear people talking about Nicki Minaj and she's 40 years old or she's all this stuff. And, I just joined the 40 club. So I take, huge offense to people calling out Nicki being in her 40s, because I'm just sitting up here like, but she's still crapping on everybody that comes up. So, I mean, 40, 50, I'm pretty sure if Nicki had the energy, she'd be shitting on other female rappers until she's 60 and 70. All right. So it's just, it really irks me when I see people, talking about Nicki Minaj won't let no other, female rapper rise and stuff like that. And it's like, that's not her job. That is
no political career.
This ain't no, 8 years. Right. That's what I'm saying. This is not a political career. This is not something where it's like, okay, let me succession plan my legacy to another female rapper, right? And then and I think the industry, what they do is they just kind of make it de facto, like, okay, Nicki, you got to endorse all these shelf life.
Pass the crown.
Yeah, pass the crown, or endorse all these shelf life female artists, right? And because a lot of them are shelf life. Right? And they know it, right? They know that they're shelf life. Their record sales tell you that they are shelf life artists, right? When I think about the female rap game today, it's like, I will say that Lotto is probably one of the better artists that have come up in the female rap game in the last couple of years, And so, but what's really confusing me about Lotto, and I guess, and it's probably not a Lotto thing, maybe it's her fan base, is like, why do they keep coming after Nicki? Like, why do they keep having Nicki on radar? Nicki out here cutting projects, doing collaborations, working with whom she wants to work with, right? And that's the whole thing, if you somebody who is good at your craft, you're not going to want to work with everybody. You're just not going to work with everybody. You're not going to want to. Some collaborations don't just make sense from a character standpoint, right? So I respect Nicki is a very meticulous artist to the point of saying, I'm not going to co-sign or endorse every single female artist that comes on the radar, especially ones that the industry are kind of planting and shelf lifing and rising and putting all their money into this particular figure to kind of be the next Nicki Minaj. And again, no diss to Cardi, but she's not going to have the same longevity as Nicki unless they keep propping her up in different little colorful ways that Nicki doesn't have to be propped up in. Like, Nicki sells for a variety of different reasons. Lyrically, nobody's really touching her. I'm not saying some of these other chicks don't have some decent lyrical content, but she is a lyrical genius. She's one of those people. She's a wordsmith. She's a natural wordsmith. And I'm not saying that people like Lotto are not, They could be writing their own things, and I think I kind of feel like Lotto would be one of those people who would write her own thing, verses too. Just because she does have a very distinct way of speaking. And so you can kind of hear an artist, over time when you hear them speak just off the bars and off the music, just in interviews, you can get a gauge as to if that person is writing their music or not. And I do believe that Lotto may be one of those people who could be writing majority, if not all of her music. But, I think that, Lotto is trying, like, in my opinion, I think she's trying to do her own thing, but she understands, where the competition lies. And I think maybe she messed up, burned bridges, with that whole little exchange. And I think she shared a voicemail of Nicki's on Twitter a couple of months ago, just all this Nicki beef. And it's like, I'm sorry. I don't understand why these people go after Nicki. Like, I don't understand why people even be messing with Nicki. I mean, unless Nicki is over there just poking the dragon at folks, which I don't really see Nicki doing. Do you see Nicki poking at people?
Not really, no.
I really don't. I feel like Nicki just be doing her thing. You know what? I mean, I think she.
A self-defense type thing.
Right. I feel, but I think that Nicki be sitting on her throne though, and she's just like, which one of these bitches aren't going to pay homage? She like, I think it's one of those things. It's like Ice Spice was like, I love Nicki. Nicki's great. I listened to her all my life.
She basically like, until you fucking with me, don't fuck with me.
Right. Until you fucking with me, don't fuck with me. And I think that's what I think that's really kind of how Nicki is. And I don't blame her. I do not blame her. And honestly, the older you get, the wiser you become, where you're not trying to have a whole bunch of tribe of irrelevant people around you. Even if it's just to kiss your ass, right? You got to trust the people around you. So the older you get, the more you're not just going to be absorbing everybody in your life. And I think Nicki is one of those people who is mature enough to kind of know that. You know what I mean? Some of these younger female rappers, they are literally working for the clout that Nicki already has. You know what I mean? And more times than not, when Nicki drops, it's fire. Mm-hmm. It's fire. I mean, she may play with a different style that just kind of like, but for the most part, Nicki really doesn't disappoint when she puts out something, and she's very diverse in her style, so it's very easy to be in tune with Nicki Minaj at all time. In terms of her music and liking it, and even just her whole demeanor about herself. I think that regardless of if you agree with the type of music that Nicki produces, I will say as an individual, as a woman, she's very fierce. I mean, that's one thing that everybody needs to concede about Nicki Minaj, is she is a very fierce woman, and she's very calculated. And I think that Nicki understands how to sell things. Nicki can sell things. And, not saying that some of these other shelf life artists that they are popping can't do that either. But it is about longevity. I think that, when it comes to the female rap game, yeah, you do need to respect the queen. It's like disrespecting Beyonce, in other genres, right? So this is an interesting thing. I will say that, Ice Spice, somebody needs to work on Ice Spice with her performance. Whoever's working with Ice Spice, whoever's coaching her, Nicki maybe help the girl out. She needs better performance, especially when you're lip syncing your own songs and you're kind of, the girl needs some help. I will say that Ice Spice is very beautiful. Her rap style is unique, you know what I mean? Because she kind of has that, it's almost like she almost is it's almost like a Drake, but she's not really singing, but it's like she has a Drake-esque cadence where Drake be singing and rapping, but she has that about her, which I think, to me, if they can change up her flow, change up her beats a little bit, and get her to do something, just to kind of really test that Betty Boop, that redhead Betty Boop brand there, I think that Ice Spice is absolutely a brandable artist, just because she has a different flair than a lot of these other female rappers. It's like, yeah, she's sexualized, but there's something like very feminine about her. And I think that's kind of what really draws me to her, is she's very beautiful, but she has a very ladylike, it's almost like she has this fusion of, ratchet, chick behavior, but then she has this cadence of having this ladylike thing. And maybe that's what Nicki sees. And I think maybe that's something that Nicki can even develop and kind of harvest for her. But yeah, another female rapper that I just think is adorable, and I think that she just reminds me, she's like, to me, the real resurrection of Lil' Kim almost, is Lola Brooke. I think she's just she's adorable little thing, right? She's such an adorable little thing, but she has a really interesting rap cadence as well that I think is more unique. It's definitely unique. It's unique. Like, I didn't really, a lot of the female rappers that sound like female rappers that I grew up with, like, if you sound like Trina, I'm going to think of Trina And even though you're not trying to mimic Trina, it's like I still think of Trina when I think of what you're doing, because that's how unoriginal some of these shelf life artists are. They just kind of go. I think the music industry kind of go and say, what works? Let's try to recycle this time and put this artist on it. And it's just like, if we've been there, done that, that's why things aren't selling, because it's like, I think that even the everyday regular person who loves music and art and all that stuff, they are able to recognize where there's just a sheer lack of creativity. And I think that's what's really happening across industries, creative industries, is there's a sheer lack of creativity. They keep recycling stuff because they keep propping everybody and their child in these elite groups to be the creators. And it's like, okay, when are you going to realize that everyday people do it way better than elitists? You may have been born with the money and even the educational access, but creativity comes from hardship. Real creativity comes from going through the school of hard knocks. And a lot of you privileged people never been there. So you're never going to resonate to regular people because you're not cut from our cloth. That's why regular people are way more, we're just better creators than people who are privileged, So when you want to talk about supremacy, just understand that these so-called supreme elite people would be nothing without regular people. Absolutely nothing, down to our creativity. So that's all I got for you guys. Have a good one. Bye. Thanks, sis.